Well, hello guys, welcome back. Happy Saturday. I did this video a couple times and I kept missing the point, but there was a point. Um, I'll go and tell this story for like the third time. Imagine you are living in a town and you are living in the shack. You literally scrounge for all the boards that make the walls, and you have tin roof. You found a door somewhere. That's about it. You've got a tiny cot. You've maybe got a table, but that's it. You are as basic can get. If you're lucky, you get a candle to light at night, and maybe, on your meager paycheck, you can like get water at the gas station or something. But you're living as basic as it can get, and you're lucky it's temperate because it's never freezing cold in the winter. It's never scorching hot in the summer. So you did luck out a little. And imagine that as you go to work every day, for whatever reason, you have to walk past all the beautiful mansions in this town. There's a whole row of them. And each one is more beautiful than the one before it. And by the time you get to the end of this row of mansions, it's like you're looking at Versailles. And it's so beautiful. And it's huge. It takes you like a minute or so to walk past this mansion. It's a huge mansion. And you keep going and you get to work. And you have a choice. You have a choice about how to feel about living in your shack. Now, you could choose to get very angry about it and say, well, I hate those mansions. Or get very angry and self-righteous and say, well, I love my shack. And that's why I don't want one of your stupid mansions. You can choose to be depressed. I don't live in a mansion. Or you can choose to accept it. And be like, okay, I live in a shack. But at least I live in a shack. It could be worse. Or you can choose to celebrate it. You can say, you know what? I'm not trying to sell a boatload of malarkey here, but I've got a shack. I built it myself. I put a roof on it. I've got a bed. I've got a table. I go to the gas station, get water and everything. I've got it pretty good. Compared to some people. I've got it pretty good. And I know I've got it good. And you can celebrate and love that little shack. And there's nothing wrong with it. Now, of course, as you're sitting there telling, say, a customer, oh, I love my little shack. I really do, because let me tell you what, it's one room. I don't have to clean all day. It's always, it's never too hot. It's never too cold. I love my shack. And someone comes in, and because they're insecure, they decide they're going to come over and take your happiness away from you. And they say, well, how come you don't live in one of those mansions? Why do you live in a shack? And the proper response is, well, why don't you? Why don't you live in a mansion? What's wrong with you? How come you're not living in one of the mansions? And they, of course, will cough and sputter and get very angry, and they will say bad words at you, and then they will leave. Or if they're creepy, they will stalk you. But, a lot of times we have a shack in our life. Maybe it's, if you're on YouTube, it's where you're on YouTube right now. Or it's financial situation, or it's your job, or it's whatever, but it's our shack, and we have every right to be proud of it. We have every right to celebrate it because we made it and it's ours. But there will always be those people that have to come around and say, well, I don't like your shack. Well, who asked them? Did you ask them? No, you didn't ask them. They just walked up to you randomly. And there will be people that try to tear your shack down because they don't have a shack. They could, let's be clear, they could have a shack. But they're too lazy. They're not going to go get the wood like you did and build their own shack and put a roof on it and everything else. They're not, there's nothing wrong with them physically. They just would rather tear down your shack instead of building their own. Then no one has a shack. Right? That makes a lot of sense, but that's how they think. And you will run into these people your entire life. And they're not always easy to deal with. And you can go to Loki and you can say, look, I have this shack. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be your accomplishments at work. It could be, you know, maybe you have been working at a company for years and you've never really got promoted. You never really got promoted. You started out as fry cook. 20 years later, you are fry cook. No, you should take pride in that. You managed to be fry cook for 20 years in this economy. You should be proud of yourself, sir, madam, person. But there will always be those people. Oh, you stayed a fry cook. How come you didn't, you know, rise up in the ranks? And how come you don't own 8 businesses? And how come you're not a millionaire? Would you really be any happier? Would you truly be any happier if you had rose up in the ranks? Got all these things? No, because I will tell you what. The same people that say, oh, it's a shame you never made it big, will come over and when you've made it big, oh, it's a shame you didn't make it bigger. I know you rose up through the ranks and you own like your own chain, but there's this guy over here has 2 chains. 2 chains. And he's thinking of buying a 3rd. And let's say you reach Echo. You're not McDonald's. For some people, it never ends. They just have their little claws out and they can't wait to come over and destroy you. Because they're insecure. It all comes down to insecurity, and they're insecure about what they have. And so insecurity breeds jealousy. And it's why some people on YouTube attack everybody else. And that's all they do. And they actually end up getting a following for it. But you can take the other approach. I have a friend that is like one of the sweetest people on the planet. And he looks up to people on YouTube. And I can't honestly remember the last time I saw people do that. Not in a way of being on the bandwagon and being a fanboy or fangirl or fan person, but in a way of actually looking up to and being inspired by other YouTubers. I can't remember the last time I saw that happen because people will say, well, what YouTuber do you like? And I like a lot of people, but I'm really random. Like, I'll watch a couple of videos, then I'll be over here, and I'll watch a couple of these videos, so I can't consistently say something. Whoever I'm watching at the time is the answer you'll get. And that's not someone that I watch, like, every single video or anything else. And I've got to admit, I have that competitive streak. Unlike my friend, who comes in every day and finds inspiration on YouTube and goes, you go, person, and, you know, is so inspired. I'm like, I did this same exact video and I got less views. I want to kill you this morning. I haven't had my coffee yet. So it's 2 vastly different ways of being. Now, that's naturally how I am. I naturally have that competitive streak and I do try to tame it down so that everybody is in competition. But, you know, I know where it comes from. We were, you know how my family was. Competition. Competition to survive. Competition, learning strategies that aren't healthy in a human being to be able to get food, such forth and such on. If I and my brother are grifters, and I think he went professional with his gig, it would be because that's what you learn to survive. Now, I don't cheat people. I know how, but I don't cheat people because I've seen too many times it came back on him. I'm like, you know, if you could do this and get away with it, I probably would have done it. But it always came back on him. So, that was really random. But I kind of wanted to share that with you. There's no shame in being proud of your shack. Other people are always going to have mansions, and it doesn't matter if it's a literal shack in a literal mansion, or it's you have a YouTube channel and you have 1 viewer, your mom. Thanks, Mom. and that's all you ever get. YouTube is not a kind place. YouTube is the jungle, and the jungle is not kind. And maybe you have it at work. Maybe you go in and you do your best and you are there every day and everyone else is always getting promoted, but you've kind of found your perfect fit. And you know you have. They're so happy with you in that position. You are never going to be moved. You are the perfect person for that position. Be glad. Be glad. And maybe you go into work one day and you've been there 20 years and they say, oh, you have been here 20 years. And we worship the cult of youth. So, unfortunately, your 40-year-old butt is going out the door. And we got this young 20-year-old that doesn't know anything. And you're going to have to train them. And then we're firing you. Gee, thank you. And, you know, succession always has to happen. It does. But usually people don't handle it too well. They're like, we're firing you and here's your replacement. And again, you can choose to handle that as, well, I'm really mad. I'm not going to teach you anything. How dare they let me go? Or you can think, well, I care enough about the customers, or I care enough about maybe not the company, but maybe doing a good job in your profession that I will teach this person to the best of my ability, and then I'll go. Because it's going to happen anyways. You know you're going to go. So you do that. So it's really up to us how we react to things. No matter whether you had a good past or a bad past, your choices now are entirely your choices. Sometimes there's a lot of work to do. Sometimes you do need to get your backstory, you know, to where you can get it to, you can tolerate it every day. But then, from then on out, our choices are our choices. And Loki can encourage us to do that and find that path. So I hope you guys like this. And I'm going to shut up now. So I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.